Okay. Thank you for having me. My name is Nedelkoska Gabriela, and together with my dear colleague and friend Ljubica Kardales-Karadoikova, we have conducted a small-scale research on metaphors as tool in political speeches as viewed by our ESP students. Metaphor as one segment of the figurative language was regarded as a novel and poetic linguistic expression where words are used outside of their normal conventional meaning to express a similar concept. The term metaphor in recent works is used within the framework of cognitive linguistics and refers to the semantic aspects or linguistic representation of a basic mental concept and not to the stylistic figure used in literature. In the conceptual metaphor theory pointed out by Lakoff and Johnson, metaphors are pervasive in our daily lives, not just in language, but also in thought and action. In their book, Metaphors We Live By, conceptual metaphors include journey metaphors, human metaphors, and war metaphors to support the view they make that abstract politics more concrete. Conventional metaphors exist in the language system and they're in a zone between literal and metaphorical uses, where originally metaphorical processes become established over time within a language. There's not always a clear-cut distinction between conventional metaphors and creative ones because of the differences between individual experience of language. Additionally, the extent to which a metaphor is active might differ between different individuals of a language. It also differs between speakers of different languages, for metaphors which have been lexicalized in one language may not overlap with those that have become lexicalized in another. Thus, a conventional metaphor in one language may appear to be an innovative one to a speaker of another language. Metaphors are regarded as having a great power of rhetoric. It's described that great rhetoric is primarily metaphorical. They're believed to have the power to persuade and have the ability to generate propaganda, influencing how a specific subject is perceived and interpreted. This is supported by the belief that metaphors affect our thinking and our emotional response to a given message. Although it is accepted that metaphors are an integral part of every language and discourse, still in political speeches, they are carefully constructed and highly figurative, with premeditated intent. Metaphor is widely used, enhancing the vividness of the language. Lakoff brought metaphor into political speeches and used it as an analytical tool to have people have better understanding and of ideology and value in political speeches. The mental aspect of language production and recognition, as seen by cognitive linguists, give means to political consultants, also speech writers or politicians, to successfully manipulate the ideas and images they produce in people's minds. Regardless of whether they are primitive or culturally conditioned, metaphorical concepts represent fundamental structures of human thought, social communication, and concrete linguistic manifestation through a rich semantic-based system based on the human physical, cognitive, and cultural experiences. Persuasiveness in political speeches has the element of universality, and it's based on two aspects, emotional appeal and intellectual argument. However, examining the rhetorical practices and theories of other cultures, we can find that persuasion is not the same everywhere. There are commonalities among cultures, but still there are some profound differences. The more two cultures are isolated from each other, possibly by time, space, or even politics, the more different and exotic the rhetorical traditions of each may sound to the other. And whatever culture is most influential politically or economically, it will tend to export its rhetorical style. The power of a given metaphor is linked to the evaluation of the audience. Therefore, a political speaker should base the choice of the language of consideration about the audience. Or in other words, the choice of a language will be influenced by the speaker's assumptions about the current knowledge of the audience. Okay, this was about the theory we researched. And to continue with the reflections we were able to collect from our students. ESP students from our university were asked for their insight of this matter, and here's what we found. When asked whether they think a specific and tailored training is needed for the use of figures of speech in political speeches, 78.3% answered yes, recognizing the significance of metaphor in this context. Furthermore, more than a half of them consider speech analysis and possible communication barriers as a substantial part of such a training. 35.3% feel that cross-cultural differences are important, and 23.5% accept literature experts as important as well. Only less than 6% think that body language and phraseology deserve attention, surprisingly. When presented with excerpts from political speeches, 78.2% of them were able to elicit the selections containing metaphor. In addition, these were the excerpts that were provided. In addition, they were asked to provide translation and possibly Macedonian equivalents for these phrases and comment on whether they feel the original intention was lost in the translation. Most of them felt that the original meaning was preserved with the construction selected from their target language, though the ones who maintained there were differences and the original message was not fully conveyed, they answered that this was due to the non-existence of such phrases or structures in their target language. When they were asked about the purpose of the use of metaphor, they were asked to select which of these provided reasons for use of metaphor they feel is most important, and their answers were as follows. 57.9% felt that a metaphor needs to be persuasive. 47.4% to sound more sophisticated, and 36.8% to simplify the message. Only 25% of the respondents were able or willing to provide examples of memorable speeches they have heard or listened to before. They cited Martin Luther King, Kennedy, or Amanda Gorman. There were even some unidentified authors whose words stuck better probably than the name itself. Interestingly, they didn't provide examples of Macedonian political speeches. There were two exceptions from NGO, Gorjan Jovanovski at Engage, and an unidentified gender equality speaker. And in the comments, there were some, well, whether I can say interesting, I'm not really sure, but they feel that recent political speeches were politically vulgar, without significance or essence. And to conclude, the students' insights can be used as a significant source and have pedagogical implications. Their reflections indicate that a significant body of students is interested and willing to discuss the rhetorical and stylistic devices in speeches and also the purpose of their existence. These following components mentioned here in this slide are the issues where we feel the students will need additional guidance and should be considered when designing the related courses to ensure to varied speeches, exposure of varied speeches in their analysis, pinpoint the methods in which politicians and speechwriters employ rhetorical strategies to influence the opinions of the audience, to identify the ultimate purpose, analyzing the context in historical and social terms, identify the particular occasion for the speech, and producing their own speech for a given occasion, especially introductions with an enticing hook. So on behalf of my colleague Ljubica and me, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.